Welcome to the Goddesses of Social Work podcast, hosted by Renita Davis, licensed clinical social worker, board-approved social work clinical supervisor, and facilitator of the Goddesses of Social Work supervision community. Join us as we travel through the social work journeys told by the Goddesses of Social Work community members, past and present, as they make their way toward clinical licensure.
Welcome to the Goddesses of Social Work podcast. I'm your host, Renita Davis, and I'm here today with Veronica McKenzie. Veronica McKenzie graduated from Tuskegee University with a Bachelor of Science degree in nursing. She earned her master's degree in adult health nursing administration from Troy State University, Montgomery. She gained her certification as a dementia educator and trainer in 2008. Veronica received her certification as a board-certified dementia educator through the National Institute of Dementia Educators in 2019. She has just graduated from the Goldman Sachs 10K SB Entrepreneurial Program. She has worked with individuals with Alzheimer's and related dementias in the hospital, nursing home, and home care settings. Veronica McKenzie founded a 501c3 nonprofit organization, Successful Living Center, Inc., a dementia-specific adult daycare center. The inspiration for the name of the facility came out of the belief that all individuals have the potential to be successful regardless of their physical or mental limitations. Welcome to the show, Veronica.
Thank you. I am so glad to be here with you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share with you and your audience today. I'm so grateful and appreciative of this opportunity.
I'm just so glad you said yes. I'm so glad you said yes. Veronica, I love reading your bio, and there's so much that I could have pulled out of that. But what stood out to me the most was that you literally just graduated from the Goldman Sachs 10K SB Entrepreneurial Program. I remember when that program first started. That's a big deal.
Wow.
So I want to say congratulations to you. But without you getting into your professional journey, can you tell us a little bit about what that experience was like for you? What is the Goldman Sachs 10K
So,
SB Entrepreneur Program?
yeah, so Goldman Sachs is it's a 10,000, that's what the 10,000 small businesses entrepreneurial training program that we went through. And really, when I think back, how did I get in that program? I actually had gotten an email. I don't know what I saw. Got an email or was researching something and came across it and said, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna apply." And I applied, and I'm always of the thought that if God has something for you, it's gonna work out. And so I applied. I went through all the paperwork and everything, and when I got accepted, I was in the Alabama cohort initially, and that meant I would have to travel. Would have had to travel to Birmingham, which I had done prior to for another cohort through this Alabama Nonprofit Association. So, but at the time, I wasn't in a position to travel. So I said, okay, well, I'm gonna have to turn it down. And so by happenstance, the coordinator called and said, "Well, we're not going to have you in the Alabama cohort. We're going to make you a part of the national cohort, which everything is online." I said, "Wow." I said, "Look at Jesus." Because that was, I said, okay, well, this is meant for me to be a part of this because it changed where I was, the group I was going to be a part of. And it turned out to be a very rewarding, eye-opening. It's a lot of work, a lot of time. You have to do a lot of homework in the background. You have to, you know, it's we can say it's fast paced, but because we started at a time we had holidays in there, gave us a little breather. But other than that, every week, twice a week. They had, resources where you could talk to professionals. The thing I loved about it, we had a mentor, a business mentor that would help us walk through the steps. And it really talked about as well business and as you as a leader of your organization. And it really revealed a lot of things about myself and why you lead the way you lead and why, some changes you can make to be a better leader. So it was, and then you meet other business owners and you know that some of the same. So I was unique in that I was the only nonprofit in my group. Everybody else was uh, for-profit businesses. So that was, I guess it wasn't bad because even as a nonprofit, you have to make a profit in order to stay in business. Uh, but the profit just goes back into the business. You don't pocket it. So, so that was very interesting. But I learned a lot from them and I still keep in touch with them. And actually, I'm probably going to partner with one of them to try to work on some things that I need to work on in my organization. So I met a lot of good friends, a lot of good people with a lot of good ideas, a lot of skills, a lot of things you can pull on. So it was a very rewarding experience. And I suggest anybody who is I think you had to be in business at least 2 years, I believe. But a new business owner, it was great. I wish I had all of this when I first started back in 2009. This would have been great to have. So yeah, it was a great experience, and graduation was an awesome celebration. And they really did roll out the red carpet for us. We finished our last two sessions in New York. So that was we we were in class most of the days, but they covered everything. All the expenses were covered. So that was truly a blessing because I could have never covered the expenses that it cost to just do all of this. So I'm grateful for that opportunity.
And you know, Ron, I was just thinking, and congratulations again. It is
Thank
a big deal,
you.
but I think that's what I was trying. I had learned from you from Miss Barbara Jackson from
Uh-huh.
the Alzheimer's Association, and we were trying to put on that event. And she's like, "You need to get in touch with Veronica McKenzie." She sent me your website and everything, and I was trying to get in touch with you, but you were in New York. And
Yeah.
you were in New York finishing up this particular program. And I don't think I realized that till this very moment. But you would message me like at 1 or 2 in the morning because your day was so jam
Long.
packed.
That's right.
Yeah, that is so exciting. But you know, one of the things I love that you said, what God has for you is for you, basically. That's what you were saying. But
Right.
what God has for you is even more than what you could even imagine. You were just going to do the Alabama cohort. But when God
Yeah.
has something for you, He made
That's,
you part of the national cohort in order
that's
for you to be able to do that. And I think that's a powerful testimony in itself.
yes, yes. It is. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations
Thank
again.
you.
I'm
Thank
glad you
you.
shared that with us. And I'm glad you're saying it's 1 or 2 years in business and it doesn't have to be a nonprofit. It could also
No.
be, yeah. So that's good to know as well. So hopefully our entrepreneurs who are listening today will look it up and know that
Yeah.
it's an investment of time and effort, but it's absolutely worth it. Do you feel like
It's
it's been worth it?
Oh, most certainly it's been worth it because you know, if you don't, the word said, our people perish for a lack of knowledge, and without vision, we can't move. So, I have the vision, I have the mission, but I didn't have the roadmap quite tweaked out the way it should be. Because so to really understand and know where I am now, where I'm trying to go, and what I need to do and what I need to put in place to get there. And so working towards those goals. So you end up in the end with a growth plan. And so that's what all these 9 modules about. a growth plan. Where are you? Where are you trying to go? Where are you trying to what growth stages are you trying to get to? And so they walk you through how to do that. And other business owners give you ideas and resources that will help you work on that growth plan. So it was very insightful. Very insightful.
Yeah, I love that. And congratulations again. Super
Thank you.
excited for you. I'm going
Thank
to move
you.
on to our first question. And I love asking this question because I'm always curious. And you kind of hinted at it before we hit record, but what did you want to be when you were growing up? Or who did you most want to be like when you were growing up?
Well, growing up, I wanted to be a social worker.
I
It
love
was
that.
it was my dream to be a social worker. But my dad said, "You're not gonna make any money being a social worker." So I chose a different path. I actually, at the age of 19, actually was accepted into the School of Veterinary Medicine. So I said, "Well, I like animals. Maybe I'll do that." But I had a bad allergic reaction, and I said, "Well, you know what? Maybe this is not for me." So then I went and I worked. I took a little hiatus, so I worked for a year. I went to Chicago and lived with an aunt, and I worked up there for a year. And so during that time, I was going around to different universities. They have in in Chicago, they had where you could go to. They were counselors that you could go and talk to about where what you wanted to do. And the next thing I said, well, okay, I'll do a hospital administration. And so one of the counselors said, well, maybe you want to do nursing, and then you have more of a feel for what the nursing is all about, what healthcare is all about, if you go that route instead of just straight from into administration. So I ended up going into nursing school. That's how I ended up at Tuskegee University. Because I had a relative that knew something about Tuskegee and suggested that that would be the best place to go. So I ended up going to Tuskegee University for nursing school, graduated, met my husband while I was there, and I graduated a year before him. The next year, we got married, and so we moved around a lot for his studies, continuing his studies, and then he wanted to give back to Tuskegee, so we ended up back here in Montgomery, Alabama. He wanted to teach there, so we came back and resided in Alabama since then, Montgomery.
I love that. I have two things, and we're so glad you're back. And now I'm even curious about some more stuff too, though. But I find it so intriguing. I have interviewed and talked to so many social workers. Do you know how many social workers have said, well, what I wanted to do before I became a social worker was become a nurse? To actually hear a nurse say that before you wanted to become a nurse or before you became a nurse, you actually wanted to become a social worker. I'm
Yeah.
like, what? Isn't that interesting that we always are looking at the other side of the fence, like, oh, but that's what,
That's
and
right.
then to
That's
hear you
right.
say that as a nurse, as an amazing nurse, you actually wanted to become a social worker. I want to zone in on what you said. Your daddy said was that
Uh,
social workers don't make any money. I bet. What is your thought on that now?
Well, once I got older and was going to school and saw all the other opportunities social workers have, I could have been a clinical social worker. I could have been, and actually, I could have been a social worker to start an adult daycare program. Even with that, so it's so many avenues in social work that I could have gone had I just said, you know what, I really want to do this. I want to run a passion and go on and do it. But I doubled down and went another path. So, but you know what? I and that that experience taught me with my own children that whatever path they choose to follow, then I'm supporting that path, and not taking them off course, because that's something God put in them, instilled in them in a direction. And if that's what their passion is or what their desire is, then I'm gonna support it. And like I used to tell them, I said, well, if you want to be on the back of the garbage truck, then you're gonna be the best garbage man, and you may start your own garbage company one day. So, whatever their desire, that's what you're gonna prosper and do well in. What's really your passion and your heart's desire. Because I believe God truly give us those desires. And He equips us with those skills and gifts and talents to be able to fulfill our purpose. Well, that's part of our purpose, and do that. So yeah.
You're preaching tonight, Veronica. I love that. Yes. Yeah. And what I was hearing, and even I just was even thinking about a recent podcast interview I did. Wherever your passions lie, that's where the money will come. If you're doing what you're passionate about and you're putting that type of energy in, the money will follow, the wealth will follow. I think that's what she was saying. The wealth will follow.
Mm,
And just to I love that you're saying, obviously you were supposed to become a nurse because you're amazing and you have your own business, and we're going to get into some other parts of your journey, but just since this is a Goddesses of Social Work podcast, want to blow that myth up that social workers can do very well.
yes.
They can do very well, and there's a lot of different opportunities for them. And but it's regardless of the opportunities, what I heard you say is make sure you follow what you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know what? I read something some years ago, and they said a great number, almost what is like 70 to 80% of the people do in jobs that they wouldn't do. So I think in terms of pick a job or a career that you would do even if you didn't get paid for it, and then you're in the right place.
That you're the
Because
second person this week to tell me that. Yeah.
really,
Yeah. So it must be something we
okay,
need to get out. Pick something that you wouldn't get paid for, and do that thing.
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
most definitely.
Veronica, I am curious about this journey of yours. One, before we go there though, I am curious. You got to go. I love when I get to interview people who went to HBCU. I didn't go to HBCU, so maybe that's why I'm always curious about what that experience is like. But you were in Chicago, came all the way back to, I don't know, back or to Alabama
Alabama.
to go to an HBCU. What was that experience going to a historically Black college for you?
Well, you know what? Being a child growing up in the 60s and 70s, all of my elementary to high school, well, I guess high school it was a mix of white and black, but predominantly black. But what I found out, because in my short duration of going to a predominantly white school university, is that you feel lost. You feel as if you have no identity, and you feel as if you're surrounded by people, but you feel alone. You don't feel like you are part of that that group, that culture. But going to HBCU, it was I don't know, it was just a different experience. So I was a non-traditional age student by the time I got to Tuskegee. But and seeing the younger group, I guess I was like the mother hen by that time in my 20s with those young 18, 19-year olds. Oh, I was what, 21, 22. Uh so it was like being home. It gave you a homey feeling because you knew everybody, all your instructors, everybody was for you succeeding. It was all about you being successful. And even though we, had some challenging times, it was all about teaching you how to lead as far as the organizations you'll be a part of or the classrooms you'll be a part of. But because of my background, and uh, I had already had some courses, health courses, I was able to tutor, be a tutor and get paid being a tutor during that time there. Actually, to break it down where people understood it, basically my nursing classmates. And so it was just really a place where you feel like you was wanted, that you feel like you needed, and feel like everybody was in your corner for success. And we helped one another. We nurtured one another. We supported one another. We loved on one another. It was just a really nice experience. It
I
really,
love that. So apparently so much so even for your husband that he wanted to come back
yes.
and teach at Tuskegee University. That speaks volumes about how much that university must have poured into you both.
Yes, yes, most definitely, most definitely.
And so then you went and I'm wondering where was this when you guys were still traveling for his education pursuits when you decided to get your master's in adult health and nursing administration from Troy, or was that when you came back?
When I came back.
Mm.
Actually, yeah, when we came back and we settled, I worked in nursing home and I worked in hospital. Well, before we left, I was working in the hospital. Then I came back. I worked in a nursing home, and I just decided to go back and get my master's so I can have other opportunities. And the opportunities it opened up for me is to teach as an adjunct professor in a nursing program at Troy. And also, I did some teaching at South University as an adjunct faculty. So it opened that opportunity. I didn't know I didn't want to go full academia, so I decided not to go for the doctorate. I said I don't need to go any further.
But I'm just thinking those students had to be so lucky to get you. They had to be so lucky to get you as an instructor.
Yeah, we had some good times. We had some good times. And for the nursing I did clinical. So I did took
Mhm.
them the clinicals in the nursing home. And so and some in hospital as well. So yeah, it was a good experience.
I'm curious, and I told you this before we hit record. You were the first time, and then I saw someone else recently. I had ever seen this, so I'm curious about it.
Mhm.
You have your certification as a board certified dementia educator, and you are a dementia educator and trainer, which you got that over almost 20 years ago. One, how did you get into this dementia and Alzheimer's space? And then two, how did you why was it important for you to become an educator in this space as well?
Well, I I got into the dementia spaces as life would have it. My grandparents, both my grandmothers, my maternal and paternal grandmothers developed late onset dementia. And so as a family member, I knew that the resources that were available to us in the community was limited. And you need a break, you need a rest. Even though I was a long distance caregiver, um, we still, my grandfather took care of my grandmother. And so he was old himself, so he needed a break. And so I decided, and actually, before that, while I was still at Tuskegee, I had a dream. And in this dream, I had an intergenerational program. Now, at that time, I had no idea what an intergenerational program was. I never heard of an intergenerational program. I saw the layout of the buildings, even in the dream, that it was a building for adults, but that's just senior adults, and a building for children. And so as life has it, and we go through these journeys in life, I had a my grandmother's developed the dementia, so I got the dementia piece from that. And then I helped a church member. at the time started her own early intervention program, community early intervention program. So I worked as case manager and special instructor in that program. So I interacted with parents that had special needs children birth to 3 years old. So I said, well, you know, a lot of them need somewhere where they can take their child and know that their child getting the services they need and getting the program they need. And so since I had worked with on both sides of that, I said, intergenerational, instead of doing typical, I have the people with the dementia, and then I have a daycare program that's inclusion program for special needs children. And that's how I came up with that. And so far, I have not found any place that deals with two special populations. So it'll be challenging, but briefly, I did see how it would work because I went to Findlay, Ohio, um, back in 2010, somewhere in there, and did their intergenerational guide. So I actually saw firsthand how that works. And it's really people with dementia, really, they don't forget that nurturing and caregiving role. And so they really respond positively to children, those who like children. Now, you do have some say they don't want to be bothered with them. So those wouldn't participate in the intergenerational side of things. But they do, they light up. It's just like new life has been breathed into them. So that's what I'm looking forward to establishing. And I said, when I establish that, then I would have fulfilled my purpose for this part of this journey.
That is amazing. And I'm all about dreams. I love dreams. The fact that when you were still in your undergraduate program, you dreamt about what you knew you would be doing.
Yeah. And 20 years later, I actually started working towards that.
Isn't that something? That is amazing. I'm so glad you shared that with us because people could have a dream and think they need to fulfill it right then and there. Like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But you had to go through everything you've gone through, going to Findlay, doing the SACS 10K entrepreneurial program, learning about working with your church member with her program, and then also staying in the space, the dementia space that you had to gain all that experience and wisdom in order for you to manifest the dream that you saw 20 years ago.
That's right. That's right. And I did the initial DETA training, the one that did in 2008. So I could get the experience and more knowledge about dementia care, working with people with dementia. So I did training around the state of Alabama with the DETA program for a few years. And then how I got the board certified, I started working with Alzheimer's Education Resource Services here in Montgomery. And so they had gotten a grant through CMS to do training in nursing homes around the state. So I went through their training, the board certified dementia education training, to do that training to nursing homes. So I went to nursing homes in Mobile and Birmingham, and where's the and some other little towns I don't really know. Up real north. It was I forgot the name in Guntersville.
Gunnerfield, yeah,
Yeah,
Gunnersfield.
so
Uh-huh.
I was all over the state and doing that, and that was really nice. I did the one in Lynette. The one that's really stand out is when I went to Lynette and did a training with their CNAs and their nurses. And actually, when I came back to do another module training, what I had spoke to them about the previous time I was there, they actually did it. And they actually say they got a good response from the individuals with dementia. in their memory care unit, and they said they had a blast. The staff had a blast. Their residents had a blast, and it was just so rewarding to see they actually took to heart what I was training them on, and put it into action, and it worked, and they saw how it worked. We so often forget, when we see people, older people and people with dementia, we just label them as somebody with dementia, but they have so much to offer, so much wisdom, and those moments of clarity, so much wisdom. I remember when this gentleman, older gentleman, was there at the center, and I think it was one day that I was just, I don't know, something happened. I was just through. I was done. He sat up. It was like the end of the day, and we were all sitting around conversating, relaxing, waiting for their family members to come get him. He sat on the edge of the sofa. I remember this like it was yesterday. He looked at me. He said, "Look, you got a good thing going here, but you got to fight for it. You got to fight." I was like, I was just stunned. When he said that, I was like, wow, so much wisdom they give us in that moment because they sense what's going on inside of you. And so often I have just wanted to give up and throw in the towel and say, you know what? I'm a nurse. I can go and I can go and work and be stress free and do something different. And it's not the clients, it's just all the other stuff that surrounds being a business owner and having to navigate uh getting people to help care for the persons with dementia. But I tell you, when I say they are so grateful and they are so appreciative, I
Mm,
said, "You know what? They say thank you more than I've ever heard any person that's supposed to be in their right mind say.
mhm,
Every day, thank you. I'm so grateful. I'm glad you're here. You take care of us." I was like, "Oh my gosh." Some days you just want to cry because you said, Lord, I just want to close the doors on y'all, but I just can't do it.
no, Veronica, you cannot. You cannot. When you were saying he sat on the edge of the couch and he was like, "Look, you got a good thing going here. You got to fight for it." I felt that. I felt that power, that presence of the wisdom that he was offering you. And the thing is, are we willing to receive it? Are we willing
Yeah.
to receive it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. That was probably probably about 10 years, close to 10 years ago. Yeah.
I
So
want to get more into how you started your business, Successful Living Center. But before I do that, going back to both your paternal and your maternal grandmothers having been diagnosed with dementia, you said so easily, I didn't want to skip over it, but I knew as a family member that there was limited resources. And I was like, how did you know that? How did you know what were there limited resources because of the dementia diagnosis? Was it limited resources because of socioeconomic status? Like, why did you know that there were going to be limited resources?
well, it was not only socioeconomic, but they lived in a rural community. So a lot of times people didn't even understand what Alzheimer's and dementia was at that, because what they called it was senility, or they said old timers. That's what they called
Mm-hmm.
it,
I
the old
remember.
timers
Mm-hmm.
disease. And looking back and hearing some of the stories they say about a great great grandfather uh, wandering off in the woods, and actually my grandmother did too. Wandered off in the woods, and they found him leaning up against a tree. Had passed away. So I said he probably had dementia as well, but they didn't know what it was. They just thought when you got old that that's what happens to you. You just lose your mind and can't function, and people have to uh watch you and keep up with you. But that happened to my grandmother. She uh, got wandered off from home and actually spent the night in the blackberry patch. And actually, the blackberry patch saved her life because I think it was a pond not too close where in the direction she was heading. So yeah, so when you have family members that are stricken with that, and there was no resources, there was no daycares or no, and then it was hard to find even someone that they could pay to come into the home to help out. So it was limited knowledge, limited understanding of actually what was going on with the individual, and because the country doctors don't know. Oh, she's just old and she just her mind just gone, and that's it. You just have to watch her and take care because there was no medication they were taking or anything like that. And so we didn't know even where, because I was younger then, but we didn't know even where to start looking for information to help us with what was going on with her, because we weren't calling it dementia. I know it's dementia now, Alzheimer's now, but then, you know, you knew that grandma just mind just wasn't there anymore. And so, but the hardest part about that journey was because I grew up with my grandmother the first 5 or 6 years, and she was like a second mom to me. And when she stopped being able to recognize who I was, I started going through the grieving process. I went through all the stages of grieving before she died. So by the time she had passed on, I had settled. I still missed her a lot, but all the grieving was gone. I mean, not entirely, but the bigger part of it was gone. And I think a lot of times caregivers do. They start going through that grieving process once they feel that they have lost their loved ones. But now by through working with people with dementia at Successful Living Center, I know that it's a part of forming new memories. They may not remember. They remember some of the old, but they not gonna remember a lot of recent stuff. But you do, and so you can form new memories. I tell them all the time. I said, "This is the time to find out all those secrets, those family secrets nobody would tell you about, because there's no filters. And if you want them to tell you truly how they feel, you'll get it." Because that same gentleman, I was having a bad hair day one day, and they like to laugh and pick at you and have fun too, just like everybody else. He looked at me, he said, "Look like you just got up and said Shazam." Oh, so yeah, that was a really touching moment. So if you really want to know how people feel about get around somebody with Alzheimer's, and then you will know. But they enjoyed laughing, and you have to
And
see them as a person. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I wanted to point out one of the things I keep hearing over and over and over, and how when you were saying back then, they just thought it was a normal part of aging. What we know now is dementia and Alzheimer's is not necessarily a normal part of aging. And so, do you want to speak to that? Like, if, especially if caregivers are listening, or even social workers who may not know and want to support families, um, that memory loss is not or dementia is not necessarily a part of the normal stages of aging.
Most definitely not part of the normal stages of aging, because some of the researchers have found that some of the same changes that happen in a person, they've autopsied brains of elderly people before, and they found the proteins and the plaques and the tangles, but they weren't to the amount that it affected memory. Memory was still intact at older ages, just when it becomes abnormally more and it tangles up the neurons and nerve cells, that then you start having the memory loss, and um, the function, not being able to function cognitively, make the decisions on your own without assistance. So yeah, the what I want to say, the physical characteristics may be normal, but the Alzheimer's or dementia itself is not a normal part of aging. That's something definitely not normal for individuals.
And
And
so
so
we want to encourage people to get tested if,
to get tested,
yeah.
and now they have blood tests that people can take to see if they have abnormally high levels of amyloid in their blood. And your lifestyle, which you're managing your chronic health status, that's a big part of prevention for Alzheimer's or any kind of dementia. Seeing it that if it doesn't have a genetic precursor to it, if it's especially late onset. So yeah, so you need to now, and uh, research also says in your 20s, so in your 20s, you need to start having a lifestyle, eating right, exercising, get enough sleep. Um, and look, we were talking in devotion the other day, and we were talking about the temple. We're in a temple, so everything we got to take care of this temple of ours that God has given us. And so that means we got to eat right, we got to get enough sleep, and so many people have sleep disturbances. That's the young people that can't sleep at night. So you have to manage that. Um, and I know sometimes, especially college students, staying up late at night. So you have to get a sleep rest cycle that is healthy for you, because sleep helps the body repair itself. That's when the body is repairing itself, when you get enough sleep at night. So all of those factors play into brain health. So you want to do the things that are healthy for your brain and for your body. Maintaining good, normal cholesterol levels, good cholesterol levels, so you don't have any blockages, blocking blood flow to the brain. So the oxygen that goes through the blood to the brain, you want to make sure it's a clear passageway. So all of those things we have to start thinking about early in life. Late in life is not too late, but early the better.
Yes, yes. I love that. Thank you for doing that with our audience. Just y'all go to sleep, go to bed.
Go to bed.
Go to bed. Especially, for most of our audience are social workers, and they're paid caregivers, but we're
Yeah.
caring for people. And
Mhm.
so you guys this is your reason. You got to go to bed. Go to bed, social workers, go to bed. I am wanting to learn from you, Veronica. How did you, what made you decide to come up with Successful Living Center? And what has that experience been like for you? And what is the Successful Living Center?
So, Successful Living Center is an adult daycare program for people with dementia. First started out saying I would take early stage dementia, but as it stands, a lot of people, I have very few early, most moderate. And so we take individuals that are um, about in the middle stages of dementia, and we take people that's incontinent that needs a little bit more help. That's because with my nursing background, and then I try to hire individuals as certified nursing assistants that are accustomed to taking care of individuals, or nursing assistants that just have experience taking care of working with the elderly and taking care of them, and have a desire and a passion. Because I tell everybody, you can't come here and it's just be a job. It has to be something that you have a passion for, because if not, you can easily get burnout. You have to really have a heart for the people that we serve. And because they have a heart for us, they love on us and we love on them, and they really enjoy. We did some testimonials. I don't think we posted them yet, from our participants that say their experience there. And we have one that is very interesting, because when he first came, he told his wife, asked him, "Well, do you want to come back?" He said, "No, I don't want to come back." But she brought him back anyway. And he said, "Well, now I didn't want to come at first, but now I can't wait to get here." So yeah, and he's a hemiplegic in a wheelchair, but he loves it. He loves it. So that's just a testament of the level of care that we give. I try to set up an environment that looks like a home away from home, not an institutional environment, a laid back environment where we're not saying no, don't do this, don't do that all the time. Uh, leading, guiding, directing them, helping them be independent as much as possible. And so they enjoy that. And it's a highly structured program. We do the same thing in the same order every day. So that gives them a sense of well being. Whenever you come on a job or somewhere outside of the home, you want to know what to expect next, right? So it's the same way with them. And so if we have the structured environment, they know when we go in this room, we're going to eat. When we go in this room, we're going to have activities. When you go in this room, you're going to rest. And they they have a sense of well-being. They have control over the environment because they know what to expect next. And so that gives them a sense of peace and calmness, and let them have a successful day. And how I came up with Successful Living Center is because I want caregivers to have a quality of life, as well as I want their loved ones that they've taken care of to have a quality of life. We give caregivers a quality of life by taking care of their loved ones, giving them peace of mind while they rest, relax, work, or do whatever they have to do outside of their caregiving responsibilities, while also giving the we call them participants, because they participate. We don't babysit; they have to participate. And so we have give them a sense of accomplishment and well-being. The little things, activities we do, and they say, "Oh, they tell the loved one, the caregivers come, "Oh, I did this, I did that." Just the little things, and giving a place for them to socialize in a non-judgmental zone. Nobody's judging, nobody's looking at you, nobody's saying what you can't do or whatever. And so they enjoy socializing with one another. So we give them a safe place to do that.
That's so beautiful. That is so beautiful. And I'm curious because I haven't visited yet, but I am because it's right here in Montgomery, Alabama, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
do participants come daily or do they, is this a once a week thing or like how is this set up?
So we're open 7:30 to 5:30 Monday through Friday. Except, we close on holidays and if we have staff training. But other than that, and they can come as much as 5 days a week, or which we do have some to come 5 days a week when we have working caregivers, or they can come one day a week, two, three, four. So whatever the needs of the caregivers are, we're there to assist them in meeting those needs.
Do the caregivers have to let you know in advance that they're coming
If
or? Mhm.
Yeah, so normally they have the days that they're coming, and then if they come another day, they let me know in advance. And that's just so we can be prepared, meal wise and staff wise.
And I would imagine, even though your participants are at moderate stage, Alzheimer's or dementia, I would imagine they get used to seeing some of the same people and they've created a little kind of family for themselves that they probably would have never had they
They
not had this particular experience.
That's true. That's true because we have some that and they love to help one another. If or they see you helping somebody, what do you need help? Helping them. So they can be helpful because Some like they like to wipe the table down, put the trays, empty the trays after they finish lunch, take everybody else's trays. And when one is not there, they miss them. They say, well, where they don't know the name, but where is the other that sit, or however they give you a description, you know what they're talking about. So they actually do form bonds and friendships and relationships.
I love that. And like you said, when you started, people who have these diagnoses, they still have a lot to offer and still have a
They
lot to give.
do.
And
They
this feels like a vessel in order for them to still be able to give.
That's right. That's right. Because you know what? Everybody has to have a purpose.
Uh-huh.
And because when we had one gentleman, he was a farmer and we have a large outdoor space. We have a gardening project now. And I had been wanting to do that for years and years and years. So finally we have our above ground gardens. And so he would have loved that, but he liked raking and doing that. He could rake circles around me. And that's because he would call the other men being there napping, because we do give them a rest period during the day. And he said, I'm a lazy man. so, so I would have to get him to sit down. But he developed a illness that put him in the hospital. And after the hospital, he went to a nursing home for rehab. But it's just like he went down, and I said, he had a purpose. Every day he got up and came there, he had a purpose, whether it was helping move something or being out in the yard doing something. And so when he stopped having purpose, then it's just like he just withered away. And I said, wow, that is so intense how purpose, just fulfilling purpose and being purposeful and having a meaningful life matters, even to the person with dementia.
That's so beautiful and so, so, so true. I love that. You know what I was thinking? One, I love that you have a garden because I mean, I'm a plant mama, so I love
Okay.
I love that. And one of the things I know about you got to meet my mama, and her house is like a miniature botanical garden. Like every single inch of the space around her house has some type of plant in it. And she's sending us videos and pictures every single day of whatever plant has bloomed or it's doing well. And so I know that a lot of people love to just have that particular type of activity. So I'm so excited about that.
Mm.
But the other thing I was thinking, Veronica, before you went into that, was how you're doing the dementia training across the state of Alabama. One, how you were doing with the state, and then how you started doing it with the nursing homes, or vice versa. And
Wow.
thinking about the fact that you were also an adjunct professor, you're just a natural born teacher. You are a teacher, and you have an upcoming webinar that you're going to be telling us about. And I think this is just such a good segue because you were born to teach, it sounds like, in and outside the classroom.
Well, yeah, it sounds like that that wasn't what I chose as my purpose. But that's what I fell into. Yeah, so I am excited about this webinar. It's going to be August 14th from 12 to 1. And I'll send you the link and everything for that. Now, this webinar is paid. It's $40 donation to attend the webinar. And the reason we're doing this, Arlita Hall, she's a comedian and she's a dementia communication specialist. Now, she's going through her own caregiving journey. She's taking care of her father who has dementia. So she does these workshops and presentations. So she's going to do an hour webinar for us as help us fundraise for our caring and sharing workshop. And the theme for that care and sharing workshop is laughter, medicine for caregivers. So, because that's free. So the workshop is free. It's going to be at Beulah Baptist Church here in Montgomery, Alabama. So to help us offset, and we also looking for sponsors, sponsorship opportunities, and so that helps cover the cost of giving something free for our caregivers because they have so many other responsibilities. And I thought this year and this theme would be a little lighthearted because sometimes we forget to laugh even in the midst of our caregiving. Sometimes we have to learn to laugh at ourselves. Some of the things we do funny because we think because sometimes I do some things and the participants laugh at me and I have to laugh along with them at myself. And so we have to learn to laugh with them because so often they may misinterpret that we laughing at them and we have to sometimes say, no, we laughing with you. And so that's fine. So everybody has a good laugh. And what did it say? A merry heart is like a medicine.
Mhm.
So we have to learn to laugh. And I think this would give caregivers a great opportunity. So since talking is presented by a person that is going through the same journey they're going through. So they managed to find some comedy in it. And so at the Care and Sharing workshop in October, it's going to be October 17th. Um, they would get opportunity to interact and practice some of the things that she's talking about. And so the webinars give you a quick snapshot of what you're going the some of what you'll get on the Caring and Sharing workshop, and it's going to be in addition to what she even talks about in a webinar. So we're believing God for uh, I'm stretching my faith way out there for 250 ticket sales. And that would cover, hopefully that would cover the cost of the Caring and Sharing workshop. So we're really counting on the generosity of individuals to really be able to give the caregivers something good, tangible, something that they can, use and practice at home with their loved ones.
I love that. And you know what they say, two or more. So I'm believing with you. I am believing with you. And we will make sure that the webinar for the comedian, and what's her name again?
Arlita Hall. She's
Arlena
from
Hall.
Chicago, Illinois.
Okay, all right. We'll make sure you've been shouting out Chicago all through this podcast. I'm like, all right, Chicago. But we'll make sure that the webinar link, which is happening on August the 14th, we'll make sure that that webinar link is in the podcast description. So even if people can't come, they can at least donate so we can get you to that 250 ticket sales.
Yeah,
But
that's
I
awesome.
think people should show up because I agree with you. Laughter is such good medicine for the soul.
It is. It truly is. And we don't, so much is happening in the world. We forget to laugh
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
So
So we'll make sure we get that. And I'm excited. And then we'll also make sure we remind people to come to the community event in October at Beulah Baptist Church as
yeah.
well. I hope I'm invited because I would love to come.
Yes, you are. You have an
Yes,
open
I'm good.
invitation.
Yes, please. Yes, I'm going to be there. So, we're going to keep it moving a little bit. And I'm curious, Veronica, what has been the most misunderstood aspect of aging in Alabama that you, or even America, that you have found doing this work? The most misunderstood aspect.
You know what? That our older population no longer can offer us any value. That is what it's always the children and the older adults that get the crumbs. They don't get the and you know what? We forget that these are people who worked hard, labored hard, They helped build this nation uh, through their works and their different professions throughout the world. And then when they get old, they retire and they just trying to enjoy life. Why do we just throw them aside? Especially when you talk about somebody that has cognitive memory loss, because we have one individual, he used to be a ambulance driver, and he talks about that a lot. And he sometimes talk about, oh, I wish I could see some of my friends from that time. And, it's like, I no longer exist. I'm a label. And so we have to learn to stop labeling how people see them as a viable human being worthy of your respect. They still demand your respect because these are people that labored and cared for us. So now it's our turn to care for them. And so whatever means that means, or whatever sacrifices we have to make on our part, then that's what we do in order to honor them and give them the respect that they need. And so often I just feel like we don't do that. We don't have enough programs to support even the caregivers taking care of them, especially from a legislative point of view. Where the funding for adult daycare programs for these caregivers. When I went to Washington, we were one of the things that with research, we're lobbying for the research and for preserve Medicaid as well. And another thing is try to get the Caregivers Act passed so that caregivers can get a $5,000 um, credit on their tax returns for caring for older adults. So, and that would be a great help. But we have to care for our older people. We can't just toss them aside. They still have a lot to offer us, and we can't forget that.
Absolutely. And thank you for that reminder. And thank you too, because I'm glad you mentioned that. I remembered when you were talking that you did just come back with the Alzheimer's Association from DC. And not only are you doing what I'm hearing, Veronica, you're doing the micro work, that one-on-one, you're doing the meso with your agency and your community and making sure you hire people who this is their passion, because I do believe that is so important as well. But then also you're doing the macro work by going to Washington D.C. and lobbying and really advocating for policy change. So thank you for all three levels. I mean, my goodness, when do you sleep? Are you going to bed?
Look, when I when I hear you say that, I just thought about myself. How do we do this?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. But we are at our final question. And, you have walked towards a lot of things. You walked towards going to HBCU, you walked towards this Goldman Sachs program, you walked towards creating and maintaining your own nonprofit business. That is such an important service here in Montgomery, Alabama. Has there ever been anything that you walked away from?
Uh, yeah, it has been. I had to really learn a hard lesson when it comes to building a nonprofit organization and starting with a new nonprofit organization, which is a lot of work. And just the realization that you need the right people surrounding you and working alongside you when you're trying to build a new nonprofit. So I had to, walk away and separate from some board members that it just felt like they were more of a hindrance than a help. And you don't when you're forming a nonprofit organization, what you need to think of is, who do you need on your team that's going to help you with the mission and vision that you have. uh, who has the skill set, who has the knowledge, who has the expertise. And it doesn't necessarily have to be anybody you know. It could be a community leader or somebody that has that skill set you need. And I think that is the best choices to make because, if not, you're gonna find yourself being overwhelmed with trying to carry the bucket of load on your shoulder because you're just starting, you're just grateful that somebody said they will be on your board so you can have a board that to fill the requirements for being a nonprofit organization, your check boxes. But no, you need to get the right people with the right skill set and the right knowledge. And if you're never had done nonprofit work, the first person you need to get somebody who has years of experience in nonprofit work that would help you so that you can grow. Because if not, you become stagnant. And then it's like you have to start all over. You're in this always restart mode instead of just growing from one level to the next level to the next level.
Look at us getting some free game from a Goldman Sachs entrepreneurial graduate. We just got some free game. I love that. You know what? While you were talking, I remember listening to Oprah Winfrey at one of the many commencement speeches that she's done. And she talked pretty frequently about when she started the girls' school in Africa. She had what she learned from that as well as exactly what you're trying to teach us today. I need to be careful. I need to be mindful. Now she has OWN and the Oprah Winfrey
Yeah.
Show and all that, but she goes to Africa and she learned the lesson again that she needed to be careful about who she brought on to help her run that particular school and that program. And so using our spirit of discernment, using wisdom, not necessarily just because somebody makes you feel good, but what do they offer to the vision and the mission of what you said that you want to do, and will they do it well?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Makes a big difference, a world of difference.
Yeah. Veronica, thank you so much for joining the Goddess of Social Work podcast. I just have one last question. Do you have any final words of wisdom or advice you would like to leave our audience with today?
Yes. I would like to say, you know what? Love what you do and find the passion and the desire for who the population that you want to serve. Just come into this with a servant's heart and with an open mind to and still learn. I learn every day from them something different, something new, and they give me food for thought as I go along my day. So don't ever stop learning, don't ever stop listening, don't ever stop making yourself available to be supportive and helpful. Because when you support and help one person, then you're supporting and helping yourself along the way too. It's not even about you feeling good about it, but knowing that you're making a difference.
Absolutely. And I'm so grateful that you said yes to the Goddess of Social Work podcast, because this is my passion. And I couldn't do it if I didn't have people who weren't willing to say yes. So thank you for saying yes, for coming on the Goddess of Social Work podcast. And I will definitely get a ticket to the webinar on August 14th. And I definitely hope to see you in October for the Caregiver event as well.
Yes, we would love to have you, most definitely. And thank you too for allowing me to be a voice here on your podcast. I'm so grateful for that opportunity.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Goddesses of Social Work podcast. We are glad you were here. If you like this episode, please come back to hear more stories of the journeys through social work, and please leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. See you next time here on the Goddesses of Social Work podcast.